June 6, 1944. Normandy. Entire world watches as Allies storm beaches of France. Newspapers scream about D-Day. This is greatest invasion in history. But 17 days later, while world's attention locked on France, on Eastern Front begins operation that will eclipse D-Day in every measure. Operation Bagration, Soviet offensive in Belarus. 2.3 million Soviet soldiers against 800,000 Germans of Army Group Center. 4 fronts strike simultaneously from north, east, and south. In 5 weeks, Red Army will destroy 28 of 34 German divisions, advance 600 kilometers, liberate all of Belarus, reach borders of Poland. This is largest Allied victory of World War II. This is demonstration of Soviet military art at its peak. But in West, almost nobody knows about it. Operation Bagration, most successful and most forgotten battle of 1944. This is its story. By June 1944, Eastern Front stretches from Baltic to Black Sea, nearly 2,000 kilometers. And right in center of this line sticks out huge bulge in Belarus. Army Group Center, 800,000 German soldiers holding territory size of England. This bulge is legacy of 1941, when Germans broke deep into Soviet territory. 3 years it stands untouched. Germans turned it into fortress. 4 cities declared Fester Plätze, fortresses that cannot be surrendered. Vitebsk, Orsha, Mogilev, Bobruisk, each fortified with anti-tank ditches, minefields, bunkers. Hitler ordered, hold to the last. But this bulge has fatal weakness. It sticks forward like balcony. If strike from 3 sides simultaneously, north, east, south, entire grouping ends up in bag. 800,000 soldiers cut off from retreat. This is exactly what Soviet generals plan. Commanding operation is Marshal Georgy Zhukov, architect of Soviet victories at Moscow and Stalingrad. Executing are 4 front commanders: Bagramyan in north, Chernyakhovsky in center north, Zakharov in center south, Rokossovsky in south. Plan simple in theory, complex in execution. 4 strikes simultaneously, break through defense, encircle, destroy. But first need to deceive Germans. Soviets concentrate incredible forces, 2.3 million men, 5,200 tanks, 5,300 aircraft, 31,000 guns. Ratio 3-to-1 in men, 6-to-1 in tanks. Germans outnumbered in every measure, but there's problem. If Germans learn about concentration of such forces, they'll either strengthen defense or start retreating before strike. Need deception. Soviets launch Operation Maskirovka, masking. In south and Ukraine, Soviets build false tank parks from plywood. Radio stations transmit fake conversations. Generals demonstratively visit southern fronts. German reconnaissance photographs all this and reports. Main strike will be in south, and in Belarus, troops transferred only at night. During day, no movement. Tanks hidden in forests, artillery camouflaged with branches, radio silence strictest. In 3 weeks into Belarusian forests and swamps, pull 2.3 million soldiers, thousands of tanks, tens of thousands of guns. Germans notice nothing. June 22nd, exactly 3 years after German invasion of USSR. Soviets chose this date specially, symbolic revenge. German command still awaits strike in south. Army Group Center calm. Reserve stretched across entire front. At night, Soviet troops move to starting positions. Tomorrow at dawn, hell begins. June 23rd, 4 a.m. Silence of Belarusian forests explodes with roar of 31,000 guns. This is most powerful artillery preparation of war on Eastern Front. 2 hours of continuous fire turns German positions into lunar landscape. At 6 attack begins, not in one place, in 4 simultaneously. First Baltic Front of Bagration strikes at Vitebsk from north. Third Belarusian Front of Cherniakovsky at Vitebsk from east and at Orsha. Second Belarusian Front of Zakharov at Mogilev. First Belarusian Front of Rokossovsky at Bobruisk from two sides. 4 strikes simultaneously along 1,000-kilometer front. German command in shock. They expected attack in south in Ukraine. Here they have no reserves. Army Group Center stretched in thin line, and this line breaks in 4 places at once. By end of first day, Soviet troops broke through defense to depth of 15 to 30 kilometers on all sectors. German fortifications built for 3 years overcome in 1 day. Tank corps rush into breakthroughs. German commanders demand permission to retreat. Hitler refuses. Hold fortress cities to the last. This decision dooms thousands of his soldiers. Next 4 days are demonstration of Soviet deep operation tactic. Don't stop after breakthrough. Don't consolidate. Continue offensive without pause. June 24th. Day 2. Breakthroughs widen. Tank corps rush into depth of defense. German reserves try to counterattack, but they're too few. For each German division come 3-4 Soviet. Math is merciless. June 25th, Day 3. In North pincers converge around Vitebsk. 5 German divisions encircled. Hitler orders hold out. Garrison Commander General Gollwitzer requests permission to break through. Denied. In South pincers tighten around Bobruisk. June 26th. Day 4. Vitebsk fully encircled. 35,000 German soldiers in Cauldron. Contact with outside world cut. In center, German grouping between Orsha and Mogilev understands threat and begins retreating toward Minsk, trying to avoid encirclement. June 27th. Day 5. In 5 days, Soviet troops advanced 100 kilometers. That's 20 kilometers per day. Incredible speed for Eastern Front. For comparison, German Blitzkrieg of 1941 advanced at roughly same speed. Now Soviets use German tactics against them. Pace of offensive doesn't slow. Germans can't organize new defense line. Every attempt to stop Soviets breaks against numerical superiority and speed of advance. Army Group Center falling apart. June 28th, Day 6 of operation. In Vitebsk, General Gollwitzer understands. Ring closed. 35,000 of his soldiers encircled. 5 divisions in Cauldron. Contact with Army Group Center lost. Radio message to Hitler. Permit breakout. Answer, hold to the last. Gollwitzer knows this is death sentence, but he's Wehrmacht general. He follows orders. 3 days his troops repel Soviet attacks, expending last ammunition and food. Soviet artillery methodically destroys city block by block. June 30th, Gollwitzer understands, can't hold longer. He does what he should have done 3 days ago. Orders break out west without Hitler's permission. At night, 8,000 soldiers try to break through. Soviets wait for them. In darkness and chaos, only 2,000 break through. Rest killed or captured. Gollwitzer among those who broke through. When he reports to Hitler about loss of Vitebsk and 33,000 soldiers, Führer comes into rage. Gollwitzer accused of cowardice for unauthorized breakout. But alternative was one, death or captivity of all 35,000. Vitebsk, first cauldron of Operation Bagration. But not last. At same time in south another ring tightens. While Vitebsk agonizes, in south same story repeats. Bobruisk, 70,000 Germans encircled by pincers of 1st Belarusian Front of Rokossovsky. Garrison Commander General Harp also requests permission to retreat. Hitler again refuses. June 29th, ring closes. Germans in Bobruisk desperately try to break through. June 30th, massive attack west, repelled. July 1st, another attempt, again repelled. Soviet artillery and aviation methodically destroy encircled. By July 3rd, resistance broken. Of 70,000 encircled, about 20,000 will survive. Rest dead. But while cauldrons of Vitebsk and Bobruisk being liquidated, even more dramatic race unfolds. Central German grouping, about 100,000 soldiers, retreating from Orsha and Mogilev area toward Minsk, capital of Belarus. They know if don't reach Minsk quickly, will be encircled, but Soviet tank corps moving faster. Generals Rotmistrov from north and Pliev from south receive order. Overtake retreating Germans, close ring beyond Minsk. This is race for speed. Germans retreating at 15 kilometers per day, burdened with wounded and equipment. Soviet tanks rush 30-40 kilometers per day, dropping everything that slows movement. July 3rd, day 11 of operation. Soviet tanks burst into Minsk from north and south almost simultaneously. Red flag rises over liberated capital. But this isn't end of battle. East of Minsk, in forests and swamps of Belarus, 100,000 German soldiers moving into trap. They don't yet know exit is closed. July 4th, retreating German columns approach Minsk and discover red flags over city. Soviets here. Exit closed. 100,000 German soldiers of 4th and 9th Armies trapped in giant cauldron east of Minsk. Army commanders Generals von Tippelskirch and Jordan try to coordinate breakout, but it's almost impossible. Communications disrupted, units mixed, ammunition and fuel running out. Thousands of wounded, impossible to evacuate. July 5th, Germans undertake massive attempt to break through Minsk. Several thousand soldiers attack Soviet defensive city from east, fighting in suburbs. Some groups manage to break through, but majority thrown back. Soviet ring holds. Encircled withdraw into forests east of Minsk. Form defensive perimeter in swampy terrain. Maybe forest will help? Maybe can hold until relief? But no one to relieve. Army Group Center has no reserves left. They're alone. Soviet command pulls fresh divisions to Cauldron. Ring tightens each day. Territory controlled by Germans shrinks. Artillery methodically shells forest positions. Aviation bombs troop concentrations. In Cauldron, hunger begins. German soldiers understand. This is Stalingrad in reverse. Only now they're in role of encircled Paulus's 6th Army. And finale will be same. July 9th begins final assault on Minsk pocket. Soviet troops attack along entire perimeter. German defense cracks. Units surrender in whole battalions. Officers lose control over soldiers. July 10th, resistance becomes sporadic. No unified front anymore. Pocket breaks into several isolated groups in forests. Some try to break through in small groups. Most surrender. July 11th, one of German generals, Vincenz Müller, makes decision. Further resistance meaningless, it's just murder of soldiers. He surrenders with remnants of his division. Other commanders follow his example. July 12th to 13th, last pockets of resistance suppressed. Minsk Cauldron liquidated. 70,000 German soldiers captured. 30,000 killed. This is largest encirclement since Stalingrad. In total, in 3 weeks of Operation Bagration, Army Group Center lost over 200,000 men killed and captured. 28 of 34 divisions destroyed or bled white. This is more than Germany lost at Stalingrad. This is catastrophe from which Wehrmacht in East will never recover. But Operation Bagration not yet finished. While Cauldrons being liquidated, forward Soviet units continued offensive west. to borders of Poland, to borders of Germany itself. July 13th. Minsk cauldrons liquidated, but Soviet offensive doesn't stop. Forward tank corps already 100 kilometers west of Minsk. Order simple: continue offensive until complete exhaustion of fuel and ammunition. Next 2 weeks are rapid pursuit of defeated enemy. Soviet troops liberate city after city: Baranovichi, Lida, Grodno, Bialystok. Germans try to delay at each river, at each height, but Soviet numerical superiority overwhelming, each defensive line broken in day. July 20th, Soviet troops force Neman, last major river of Belarus. July 23rd, reach pre-war Polish border. Belarus completely liberated in month. For comparison, Germans needed 3 years to capture it. Soviets, 5 weeks to take it back. July 24th, special moment. Soviet troops enter Brest, city where June 22nd, 1941 war began with German attack on USSR. Exactly 3 years and 1 month ago, defenders of Brest Fortress died here. Now red flag again over city. Symbolic circle closed. By end of July, offensive runs out of steam. Not because Germans stopped it. Simply Soviet troops stretched supply lines 600 kilometers. Fuel can't be brought up fast enough. Ammunition running out. Troops tired. Need pause for regrouping. July 29th, Operation Bagration officially completed. In 37 days, Soviet troops advanced 600 kilometers, from eastern Belarus to eastern Poland, from Vitebsk-Mogilev-Bobruisk line to Narew and Vistula rivers. This is one of most rapid offensives of World War II. How did Soviets destroy Army Group Center in 5 weeks? This is an accident. This is result of careful planning and brilliant execution. First, deception. Large-scale deception operation made Germans expect strike not where it would come. While German reserves pulled south to Ukraine, Soviets concentrated forces in Belarus. When June 23rd attack began, Army Group Center found itself without reserves. Second, concentration. Soviets created overwhelming numerical superiority at breakthrough sectors. Not across entire front, but on narrow sectors. 3-1, 6-1. German defense couldn't withstand such pressure. Third, simultaneity. 4 strikes at once. Germans couldn't transfer reserves because breakthroughs were everywhere. Each attempt to close one gap opened another. Fourth, speed. Soviet deep operation tactic. Don't stop after breakthrough. Continue offensive without pause. 20-30 kilometers per day. Germans couldn't organize new defense line. Each attempt to dig in outflanked. Fifth, exploitation into encirclements. Breakthroughs didn't just deepen, they turned into pincers that closed behind Germans. Vitebsk, Bobruisk, Minsk, 3 huge cauldrons in 3 weeks. This wasn't like Soviet offensives of 1941-1942, when attacks drowned in blood. This was demonstration of military art honed by 3 years of war. Red Army of 1944 was completely different army than in 1941. Numbers tell story. Army Group Center lost 400,000 men, more than at Stalingrad. 28 of 34 divisions destroyed. That's third of all German forces on Eastern Front, annihilated in 5 weeks. Soviet losses also heavy, 180,000 killed, 590,000 wounded. But unlike Germans, who lost irreplaceable regular divisions, Soviets could replace losses. Industry worked at full capacity. Reserves existed. Comparison with D-Day shows scale. Normandy landing, 156,000 men first day, 80-kilometer front. Bagration, 2.3 million men, 1,000-kilometer front. In 5 weeks, Allies in Normandy advanced 100 kilometers. Soviets in Belarus, 600. But in West, almost no talk about Bagration. All attention riveted to Normandy. Soviet victory remained in shadow. Why? Partly because Western allies didn't want to admit that main role in defeating Germany played by USSR. Partly because Cold War began, and West preferred to forget Soviet achievements. But Operation Bagration forever changed course of war. After it, Germany could no longer win, Eastern Front collapsed, path to Poland open, path to Germany itself open. In 9 months, red flag will be over Reichstag, June 23, 1944. While world watched, Normandy in East began operation that decided war's outcome. Operation Bagration, forgotten but greatest victory of 1944.